Hold on, there's a gnat on my f***ing screen. I'm gonna scream.
Again?
Oh, actually, hold on. I'm gonna, no.
A gnat spawning?
I'm gonna... Shut up.
No.
Oh, man. When you're like, ooh, I hit the record button at just the right time. That's going to make a fun little pre-roll intro.
Yes. Inter-party conflict.
Welcome, everybody, to Tavern Talk. I am your host, GM Chavez, here today with my awesome and amazing party. Let's say hello, everybody.
Hi,
everybody.
Cypher, why don't you take the lead and go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Oh, I thought we weren't doing introductions.
I thought we'd just do quick, short ones. You know, hey, I'm Cypher. I play Nyx.
Perfect.
Yeah, you want to do little short ones like that? All right, we've got Endo, they play Ridberry. Dusk, they play Bran. Canopsia is played by the wonderful and amazing Juno down there with their plate of potatoes.
Thanks. They're really tasty.
So if you guys...
I'm having a lot of self-control right now by not eating all of them right now. I'm clenching my fist really tightly.
I can see that. And you have to tuck them behind your mead there too, just to be safe.
Please just give me some fucking privacy. Please give me some privacy.
You're like, I need a minute to cook up some potatoes right here. If you guys are joining us for the first time here on Tavern Talk, I promise you this is not a podcast about potatoes. Instead, this is a podcast where it should be, but we are going to recap and discuss our latest session of our signature campaign on D20 Dreamland, which is Pristine Dreams. So Pristine Dreams Session 6 was what we'll be recapping today. And make sure you check those episodes out and beware of heavy spoilers for all of the Session 6 episodes in tonight's Tavern Talk. With that in mind, there's a couple things I want to clear up right away, right from the get-go. And that is that all of us here are fairly new players to 5th edition gaming. We've all played in 5th edition games before at some point or another, but I wouldn't say any of us are super experts on it. We're still learning it here as we're going along. I myself, as the GM, as the dungeon master of the game, I come from a background playing mostly 3.5 and Pathfinder 1st edition. So anyone who's played those systems knows that 5e is very, very different. We kind of started off playing a little bit of Pathfinder 2e, which was also very, very different. We've settled on 5e now, and we're trying our best to learn it and know all the rules for it. Now, when I went back and edited a lot of Session 6, I noticed, we still weren't following a lot of the rules precisely correct. But ultimately, nothing we did broke the context of the story or what was going on. And that is oftentimes how I make my rulings, is that if something ever seemed important enough that I thought it would change the scope of an encounter or what was happening on screen, we would definitely stop and take the time to look up the rule. For the most part, we're not going to get into a bunch of rules lawyering because we just want to have a good time and create a collaborative story together, which is what I encourage all you beautiful people out there to do as well. But if you guys do have questions about the rules, comments, or suggestions for us on how to handle different rules, or you just want to bark at me for making a bad call, feel free to let us know in the comments below. If you've heard me make a call that was really bad and totally 100% wrong, feel free to drop a like on the video so that I know that I did that. But if you saw me make a call that you were like, hey, I know that's wrong, but I like the way he handled it. I think that was really cool. I think that was really smart. And I may do the same thing in my game. Feel free to hit the like button down below and let me know. So that way I know if I'm doing a good job or not. With that being said, Tavern Talk is going to focus mostly on our story elements. We're not going to get into any of the rule stuff at all. I shouldn't say mostly. We are not going to get into the rules. We are just going to be talking about the story and what goes on in the player's mind and what goes on in my mind as I try to tell a story. I try to narrate a story, but have to constantly adapt and change to what the party is doing. So clearly I have a bunch of stuff in mind for what's going to happen, and my players are getting hit with it for the first time, and I have to react to their reactions. So it's a great game of back and forth, and it's a great game of collaborative storytelling. And all of us here at D20 Dreamland kind of agree that that is really what makes D&D special. All of the mechanics and rule sets and things are basically making the rules for a video game. You know, if we played them too strict, there wouldn't be any room to really be crazy. And I think all of us like being a little bit crazy. So with
Speak
that,
for yourself. I'm very to the rule, very buttoned up. I'm not here to play a game, okay?
Yeah, neither am I. I'm Mr. No
I'm full
Nonsense.
here for
Yeah.
fearlessness.
We're all very business.
I'll
you're like,
admit it.
you called me on that -2 for frightened. That was a different system, Mr. Chavez. All right. Not putting up with that bullshit.
Exactly. Yeah.
How
But
dare you not
anyways,
adhere to the rules strictly.
we definitely had an epic battle at the very beginning of this session, and one we had been leading into from the session before, where our party has now encountered King Lycaon in his werewolf form back in Grandma's house. So you guys think you're going to see Grandma. You realize it is actually King Lycaon in disguise, and King Lycaon is a fierce werewolf. That's not him there. Let's see. Beep. Nope, that's not him either. Shit. There we go.
Chavez. I
Like,
just
get it
said this
together,
is we're not here to play a game. We're very serious. You gotta
Don't-
get your shit together.
I'm sure somebody will edit all that out later.
But I wonder who.
I wonder who.
The best part is I'm not going to do that, but I'm going to leave that in there. That's fine.
It stays in.
That's the point of this show, right? Is people see behind the scenes. So I put the wrong picture up. I have to take a minute to fix it.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
It's fine.
Yeah.
that's how that's the real deal. That's so you know it's real that I mess shit up. So King Lycaon in his werewolf form, actually. So that's still the wrong fucking picture. Let's go. Here we go. Okay. So King Lycaon.
I mean, it was the guy.
we were
the
close
guy.
enough. Yeah,
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah.
So there we go. A nice close up here on werewolf King Lycaon. And knowing that the story kind of ended up as this tale of Little Red Riding Hood mixed with the ancient Greek story of King Lycaon, you guys are now face to face with your big bad wolf to a degree here. Canopsia and Nyx in the room with the creature, Bran just outside in an adjacent kitchen area, and poor Renveri stuck outside being sick from the meal of the Xenia where you had to eat a bunch of raw meat. Being a vegetarian, Renveri wasn't a fan of this.
And drunk.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and he was
Tried to drown out that yuck taste and that yuck feeling with a bunch of wine. Ended up making yourself
cook it with the wine. Yeah.
very sick. So you're out on the front porch when an epic howl goes out and casts fear, or grants the frightened condition, however you want to phrase it, to both Renveri and Nyx. So Nyx being right in the face of this werewolf King Lycaon, and Renveri now stuck outside, too frightened to actually enter the home. So the first thing I want to address tonight is the fighting strategies that you guys may have had. Now, one thing people may look at is that it's kind of weird to stop a session right at the beginning of a fight. But this is actually one of my favorite things to do, especially boss fights, where I can kind of give you guys a little bit of the lay of the land, a little bit of what's around you, and give you guys time to think about a strategy amongst yourselves, and then hopefully return and change it up just a little bit and fuck up all your strategies. So you still have to come up with a bit on the fly. But I feel like that gives us the most realistic quality of your characters knowing how to fight and being prepared, but then also have to dealing with the impromptu fierceness of battle. So if I could, let's go around the table. We'll start with Nyx there. What would you say your strategy was going into the fight? What were you thinking? How were you thinking this was going to go? What were you planning on doing, Cypher?
I was planning on fighting, but I was frightened, or Nyx was frightened. So all she did was wail on him from nearby.
Which was good. I mean, knowing that you had the frightened condition, you had to be thinking, okay, I need to just stick to this guy like glue, right? Because if he gets too far away from me, I won't be able to approach him again. Or were you hoping he would get kind of far away from you? What were your thoughts there?
No, I mean, his proximity mattered a lot because, you know, even though she can throw her dagger, it's not returning. So making sure that she stayed nearby was really important. So I really just, I don't know. I feel like in a way I kind of copped out because, you know, she was 5 feet from him the whole time. And really, I didn't do much with I didn't do anything very creative. But I mean, it was practical. So,
yeah,
you know, sometimes you just have a practical fight.
Yeah, and I think it could be argued you didn't need to do anything creative because your companions were keeping him right in front of you so that you could continue to be a person doing sustained damage. So I think the strategy was good, especially knowing Bran was definitely going to jump in a minute and keep the werewolf from attacking people. That really played in well with you being like, okay, I'm going to stand my ground and just kick ass. So I think that ended up working out really well. I think the most challenging person who would have had a week to bang their head against the wall probably would have been Endo, with Renveri kind of being stuck outside on the porch. And I know it was kind of at the last minute that we discovered the error in me calling the one rule, and that you didn't know that you were going to be frightened ahead of time, right? But we were able to kind of blend the two together, since both being drunk and being frightened have the same disadvantages. Now you really only had one set of disadvantages, but you did have that extra added notion now of like, I can't go into the house. So what was your thoughts beforehand and then after that revelation?
Well, see, the great thing about being useless from the start was that you left us at the beginning of the fight, and I was like, I don't have to think about anything. I don't have to plan. I get to be in the moment, and I'm going to be outside, and I'm going to throw up, I guess.
You're like, well, those guys are dead. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Like, honestly, if I didn't have all that going on, or Renveri didn't have all that going on, and I was in the house, I would have been thinking a lot more. And honestly, I was just like, this bitch got drunk and now he's frightened. So he's just gonna have to hang out here, and I'm just gonna have to wait and see what happens, because I can't plan anything. And in a way, it's freeing as somebody who does like to plan a whole bunch and think. And then,
very liberating experience there then, huh? So it
was weirdly liberating being fucking wasted and dead weight. Yeah.
You mean in game, right? Like,
sure. But yeah, and then like getting back to it in the moment, like I also trusted you to give me things to face, you know?
Oh,
like
okay.
I couldn't go in the house and like directly fight with that frightened on. And I also misunderstood fright, that I thought like as long as I couldn't see Lycaon, the source of my fear, I could get in the house. But then I remember you presented me with some more fun people coming to join the party, and my thought was like, oh, I'll just hide inside. And you're like, you can't do that because, you know, your source of fear is in the house. And I was like, well, shit, there's a tree, I'll go there.
Right. Yeah, no, that's an excellent point. And again, I don't want to get into rule stuff back and forth. That was my interpretation of it, though, was that you couldn't move close to it. In my brain, I was probably thinking perceive, that if you can perceive, it's like you couldn't see him when he made that sound. So what is it that you think that sound came from? The house. It came from the house. This is the thing you can't get towards now.
Yeah, and that totally made sense to me. So
okay,
like, yeah,
good.
I wasn't gonna fight that. I was like, Renberry knows the source came from inside the house. So for him to not be able to even step a foot in, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Totally,
so we were on the same page then. Good. And it's funny too. Like I feel like very good. Like I don't know how to describe it, but the fact that you said, you trust me, I'm honored, I'm flattered that you said, oh, I trust you to not just leave me out here like, haha, you're fucking T-Bone, dude,
yeah, absolutely.
Got nothing to do. And then clearly there was, other stuff was going to happen outside that you were going to get to be a part of. And I kind of needed you there for, so like it worked out really great.
Yeah, I totally trust whatever ruling you make, whatever decision you make in your game. That's why I'm here. If I didn't like it, I'd say fuck you and I'd take my ball and I'd go home.
And that would be 100% fair. And you know what? We oftentimes hear stories and read on Reddit so many people who are like, oh, this fucking player and this fucking DM. And it's like, why are you guys playing together? This is go play another game, man.
Yeah, like clearly if you can't agree like on rules or anything, like you guys shouldn't be playing a game. It's like you have to cooperate with each other. It's not playing this game is not a players versus GM thing. Yeah. It's like you're all playing together, unless your table is into that and you set you decided that ahead of time. Like your GM is like, I am trying to fuck you guys over and I want you guys to fight me. That's different. But
right. Because someone might be playing paranoia and that's like the whole point of the game is you versus the DM,
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. But in this context too, also knowing that we're all like big role players, we're big story people. I'm glad that I have the trust that that any kind of ruling that may seem bizarre will probably have a story element attached to it down the road. That's going to justify whatever happened. So that's awesome, man. I'm glad. I'm gonna hope I hang on to that trust throughout the course of Pristine Dreams.
I hope you hang on to it too.
You're like it's
don't disappoint me.
Yeah, you're like it's pretty much a very thin fucking thread right now. What was that, Dusk?
Yeah, what did you say?
You're on thin fucking ice.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No doubt. But Dusk, let's go ahead and roll right into you. What was your plan for Bran ahead of time? Knowing that you were the Monster Hunter Ranger, that, you were going to be the person who was like, ooh, this is what I fucking live for, dude. Right? Like, you just made my day by revealing you're a monster. What was your plan? And did it change based on what happened, or were you kind of good to go throughout? Uh-oh, man, that laugh.
So I am a big fan of martial characters. I think I've played a caster once, and even then they were it was ironically a thief sork divine soul.
Okay.
So one of my favorite things about Bran is really getting into that mindset of like, okay, let's fucking go. It's me versus you. I'm going to throw you into a fucking wall. My initial plan was very much like, okay, so like all signs point to werewolf. Lycanthropy is exchanged through saliva. We cannot have him biting anyone, which is so fucking funny considering what happened.
I know Juno's in the chat with the little eyes right now being like, who, me?
Mm-hmm. I remember like rolling a 10 and like thinking, oh, that's not too bad. And just, I'm kind of glad because it created such an interesting like story. Because going into it, I was like very... The idea of Bran possibly bitten was like not far from my mind. I was like, oh,
yeah,
that'd be bad.
We'll come back to this later on, but I definitely got a vibe that like Dusk had some Skyrim vibes of like, I'd be even more powerful as a werewolf.
Hey,
I know you're
this man has facets, and I love him.
Yeah. And again, I think kind of the ongoing theme for Bran has been like, don't become the monsters that you hunt. Like that's a deep seated fear.
Exactly.
But when faced with the threat of like, these people can hurt my friends, but I can power up like them. It's interesting that, and makes sense that this is a temptation for Bran.
Yeah. Also, getting into his backstory a little bit. So he's had 2 mentors in his life.
Mm-hmm.
The first was his adoptive father, because Bran is an orphan. He was orphaned at a very young age. He never knew his parents. His first mentor was a man named Griffin. He was like an ex-mercenary, was a very rough and tumble, strong survive type. And that's always like stuck with Bran. His second mentor, Anna, was the person who trained him into monster hunting, who was more disciplined but still had that streak of whatever it takes to take it down.
And so you got the best of both those, huh?
Mm-hmm. Fun and also a fun little tidbit is Anna was Renveri's mom. And that was also very fun to...
Well, let me ask you this.
Have rattle in my brain.
What was it, though? Or was that all just a dream?
Or was it a dream? I also love the aspect of, like, how much of your past life can you trust? Are these the same people that you know? Teehee, I'm sure that won't play an integral part in future decisions.
I'm just glad my avatar has that like shit-eating grin, because that's 100% me right now.
Oh yeah, it adds so much.
So, but safe to say then that with all that experience and training, you were pretty much like, I'm gonna fucking suplex me a werewolf, I think was an exact quote.
Oh yeah. It was an exact quote before a game. I'm going to suplex that werewolf. and I'm a little sad I didn't do that.
I noticed that didn't change much. Like you really went in fighting. But I will say that you wanted to make a roll early on, to confirm, I guess I wanted you to make the roll to confirm that you really remembered your training and lore about werewolves. And you got a great roll on that. I think it was like a 19 or something, where it was like, oh, hell yeah, you know fucking werewolves inside out and backwards. And you very much became, and so I'm going to kind of disagree with you a bit, right? Or question your strategy, because it seemed to change in that moment to let me make sure none of my friends also get bit. Like you saw Canopsia get bit by the werewolf and you're like, no, never mind. You switched from being I'm Death Machine to like a protector of a kind. So just comment briefly. Tell us what was going through your head in that moment. Was that the goal, just to be a protector? Did you lose that bloodlust, or what's the thought there?
So that's also another thing about Bran is like, it's the nature versus nurture. Like he was brought up as somebody who's like, as previously stated, do whatever it takes to take it down. But he knows he kind of has a faulty moral compass. He is someone who often struggles with the most noble or right decision, and I feel like his party members has also really influenced that, like, more protective, more nurturing side of him. Of like, it doesn't matter if I take this down or not. I want to make sure we get out of this okay. And that, like, really kicked in seeing Canopsia absolutely shocked and bitten.
Yeah, which was intense. And I think going to bring us over to Juno so we can check with you right now. This was a side of Canopsia that we don't get to see very often, but Canopsia was like full bore paladin, right? Like, I'm just going to say it like that. Like, you were like the quintessential, like, smite thee, piece of shit monster. I will destroy you and vanquish you for being evilish. So how did that feel for you, Juno, to let that side out? How did that feel for Canopsia to be in that moment? And what led up to that? Like, was there something that brought that out of Canopsia from King Lycaon?
Passion. Pain and like pain and passion. Pain and passion. To put it simply, seeing the way King Lycaon treated his friends, and also the way that he was just kind of acting in general, even though he was putting on this very jovial front. Kay is very no nonsense, and even, you know, as they were at the Xenia, when his son was, you know, showing disrespect and like barking shit at Canopsia, he was just like, I think there was even a moment of like, can you control your fucking kid? Can you? Yeah. And at that, everything that King Lycaon had done and the frustration of everything it's taken to get here, and how everything has gone. And now suddenly this guy is ripping out of the bed and trying to pounce on them and attack them and, you know, ruin their entire day. And Canopsia, as we know, is Mr. No Nonsense. So at this blatant display of disrespect and also just straight up a lie, everything that he'd done before is now moot in the past. Doesn't matter anymore because the Xenia is broken. He just willingly and full out like was trying to attack them.
Oh,
and who knows
gotcha.
what else.
Yeah. So you felt like you guys had put in so much to make this agreement, and then him instantly breaking it was like, well, fuck you, buddy.
Oh no, absolutely. Canopsia was, I don't think Juno was very good at voicing that in that moment. But thinking back to the Xenia, and I think it was a large reason for why Canopsia was like, fight me, let's fucking go. I'm sick of you.
Well, it's funny because like I just want to interject real quick that I think that's what's great about doing this Tavern Talk is that in the moment, you know, it's not a book. We don't get to hear everything that Canopsia is feeling. So I think what you said and how you play the moment out makes a lot of sense. And then you hear the kind of insight that you had into what motivated that character. And it's like, oh my God, even me as a DM, I'm like, I didn't make that connection. And now I see it so plain and simple. And it gives your reaction so much more emphasis even than it had. But I wouldn't say you played anything wrong or didn't come through well. Like, it came through really good, my friend. But anyways,
good. No, because it's like, Canopsia is not one to boast. I don't think he is a very prideful individual. I do not think his ego overtakes him like often, besides in blatant moments of disrespect or wrongdoing to people he cares about. And that's when he starts to, you know, puff up. You know, when Linus had, you know, like dove into the water and then splashed Nyx and Renveri, he was ready. He was ready to like, you know, puff up and be like, I'm sorry, what? Do you have something you want to say? Like he again, and I don't want to play Canopsia as this person or this man who is, you know, intimidated by other people or you know, by other people getting like aggressive or like trying to show a display of power over like I don't want to put it simply, I don't want to play Canopsia like a total asshole. I don't want to do that. But I think Canopsia does have this very strong sense of justice.
No, I think that totally comes through from the contrast.
Justice. Good.
No, I was going to say that contrast between like, is it not respectful to eat a salad? You know?
Is it not like we're already sitting here and we're already fucking sitting here at your table. We have sat our asses down. We have gone through thick and thin.
Yeah.
We are sitting here at your people. We are eating their food. You cannot. Fuck you! Fuck you!
No, that sense of betrayal I didn't realize would resonate so strongly, but that's great that it did. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, Canopsia again, who has I'm sorry, Juno's doing the thing where he goes on like a 10-minute tangent.
You're
about
fine.
His character. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
I asked a very direct question about your character, so please feel free.
It's so neat. Yeah, it's just again. The audacity of lying. You preach this message about wanting peace, and you have gotten this kill, the heart of the creature, the meatiest cut, and you present it to us. And that's great. Fantastic. But you have and we still partake in your tradition. We partake in what you want us to do because we are your guests, and you have the audacity to turn your back on us and try to pull the fucking curtain over our eyes. And Canopsia hates that shit. He doesn't have much. He has so little. And this man thinks he has the audacity, the right to take away what little he has? Absolutely not.
You're just
absolutely fucking not.
Hey, this guy's a phony, man. He's some kind of poser. He's
phony. Big fat phony. Like, and Juno, Juno was I particularly am feeling it now. Like I'm feeling Canopsia's like burning rage and need for justice. Yeah.
That's so great. I'm so glad you guys felt that passion and intensity towards the fight. Because there was definitely, to me, a worry, you know, as a DM, I always want to make sure that the story beats are impactful, that they resonate with the players. And
absolutely.
For me, I'm unsure if there's an understanding of why King Lycaon is turning on you in the moment. And what's interesting is I never considered the fact that he did. Right? Which I know sounds like the same thing, but like you guys are passionate and so angry at the fact that he did turn on you. It didn't even fucking matter why.
No, right. It didn't matter. But like this injustice is enough. You have ordered this matter of peace. And then immediately when you send us off on our merry way, you think that's the time. To break your promise. And Canopsia hates broken promises, bitch. He hates broken promises. He's gonna King Lycaon, I am in your walls. I am in your walls. I'm in your walls. I'm in your walls. I'm in your walls.
So my carefully scripted line, right, was I only really needed King Lycaon to say one thing that I was like, but you know, I'm gonna have my one round where I can say something to kind of put the pieces together for you guys. So my carefully scripted line that I practiced for days ahead of session, you know, was you dare come into my kingdom wearing the cloak of the awakened, right? Bringing my, it wasn't disrespectful. What was the word he used? It wasn't, but my disgrace of a son, right? And you expect me to do anything less than tear you limb from limb. And to me, I was like, okay, there you go. Now it makes sense. Like you guys had done everything you could to conceal the fact that you were with the group of the awakened, right? Short of hiding Juno's cloak, which I don't think anyone made the connection that other people would know what that was. They didn't know what Nyx was, you know? So that's kind of me planting a seed on one side of being like, oh, they don't know anything about what you guys are, hoping you won't notice the obvious kind of ploy that's also right there, you know? So, but the idea being is that no, King Lycaon damn sure knows who you guys are with, right? And he knows he has sent his son out before and doesn't really like him, and now you bring him in tow like that. So it's like you almost brought back an embarrassment with you, and you're already his enemies. You know, you present the cloak of Madame Rava, so he knows that you're there looking for Aret, you know, or Arati, or however you want to say it. But so he knows, he's like, you guys are my enemy, and he's putting on the biggest bullshit show to try to lull you into that false sense of security.
No.
And what's interesting, right, is like, not only is this very in character for the classic story of King Lycaon, who, welcomes the gods into his home and then disrespects Xenia with them, which we'll get more into in game. So I'm not going to get too much in that story this time, but maybe the next Tavern Talk. But it's very in character for him. But also to me, I was like, this is very in character for the big bad wolf, right? Who meets Little Red Riding Hood and it's like, hey, where are you going? What are you doing? Yeah. Oh, you should be careful out here. There's a lot of bad shit, but gets all the information he needs to plot a way to kill and eat this little girl.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, these are like the perfect marriage of two stories right here.
Yeah.
And
now it's the big bad wolf and the boy in blue. Yay!
So all of that being said, with all of that passion and everything on both sides of this coin, because it's clear now that King Lycaon hates you guys for being part of the Awakened, and that he realizes, you guys are gonna awaken the gods that punish me. Fuck you, dude. So he's gonna do everything he can to kill you guys. But by the same token, this was kind of a one-sided fight, right? It was meant to be,
absolutely.
And you got hit hard right off rip, Juno. And I want to say, in terms of changing your strategy, how did this change up that moment? For you?
It sucks because it's like I wasn't expecting you to hit me so hard, and that's the way the dice were telling it, baby. I wasn't expecting you to hit me with a bite because I've never fought against a werewolf before. I'm not super experienced in the realm of dun So, and then later I'm hit with the, lycanthropy can spread through a bite. And then I'm like, huh? Because if I knew that before, I wouldn't have done everything that I did. I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have done everything that I did. Because here's the thing,
that just makes it in character because
he wouldn't know.
Right.
He wouldn't know either. And here's the thing with that, right? Canopsia didn't know that. I didn't know that. But it's also what's the word I'm looking for here? Because it's like I want Canopsia to be able to take a beating. He's able. That is what he is made for.
Yeah, you're tanky for sure.
Yeah, but Canopsia, I think, if I look at his sheet, hold on, let me look at his sheet. He has, and we're.
Oh, hold on.
We're level 4.
We lost you for a second there. Say that again.
Hello.
We got you now. Okay.
Yeah, but for anyone who's curious, we play at level 4, and I am, when Chavez hit me, I think you hit me for you hit me for over half of my HP.
Oh yeah, it was a lot. Yeah.
You took me down and not near, but you got me pretty bruised in 2 hits, and 2 really good hits. One of which I believe just barely met my armor class.
Right.
The other one was a fucking 27. There's no beating that. But the other one just happened to barely beat my armor class, I think. And after being, scrapped to shit, I was just like, well, this doesn't feel good. I wanted to attack the shit out of you, bro. I wanted to kill you so hard that you died. I hate walking back that shit. I hate having to walk it back. It sucks. Juno, because Canopsia isn't feeling it, but I'll feel it for him. I was like, bitch, I'm not done with you. I'm coming back. I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna put my foot up your fucking butt.
You're like, I'm gonna need a minute, but I'm coming back. I gotta be over here for right now.
Yeah. I actually had Canopsia, he had to, I had him blink away because I was trying to preserve him staying alive and, on his feet in the fight. Because Renveri, unfortunately, is outside. My sweet ray of sunshine
Yes.
is outside and puking in a bush.
Yeah, and although a sorcerer, Renveri is kind of like our primary healer to an extent.
Right. He has, I'm pretty sure if I'm remembering right, I think Renveri has some sort of staff of healing. Do you still have that? Or
I have, it's my sword.
It's your sword.
I'm the healer.
Yeah. You're healer boy. Yeah.
Yes.
And it's like I have my own healing. I, as a paladin, have my lay on hands, but I already had given like 10 of my, maybe in looking back, was it smart to give a child 10 HP? Maybe not, but also fuck you.
I did the right thing.
Fuck you. I did the right thing. It was a child.
Was it smart for Renveri to like down cups and cups of wine earlier?
No.
Like knowing he is the healer, he has feelings about what he did. Don't worry. But like, but we make these choices for our characters, and then we find the consequences later.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and that's what brings it all back.
Yeah,
brings it all back around, baby.
Yeah, and I do want to cycle around to some of the others. I want to ask Nyx a specific question here as well. So I think that we're seeing through that initial response, what's really interesting to me is how much thought each of you put into your character and how they act in any given situation. Now, aside from Renveri, who has external sources kind of weighing on him, I think each of the other party members still in the fight are very much showcasing the character, right? And I think this is something a lot of people have trouble with, is connecting to their character versus connecting to what they would do or what they're expected to do from the other players who are like, do this, right? You guys all very much give each other a lot of breathing room to make your own decisions, which is fantastic. But you also have a good lead on each of your own characters. And, from Canopsia being the very passionate and valiant just warrior to Bran being the like well-trained combat expert who is like a fucking death machine, being like, well, wait, I don't want my friends to get hurt. And having that internal struggle to Nyx, right? And Nyx being a very cold and like calculated assailant, that you're like the sneaky person, you're kind of the assassin, the thief, and you're like, I'm going to stand toe to toe and in a weird way be the like person who is not drawing the ire of the big bad. You're very much able to stay in close range and do probably the most damage out of everybody, while at the same time not drawing too much super attention to yourself, which seemed like such a thief way to play that character. So what is your impression of how Nyx feels throughout the course of that fight, seeing the passion coming from Canopsia and getting them like hammered for kind of getting too close to this beast, and then seeing Bran do everything he can to try to defend you? What did you feel your role was at that point?
So, quite common for Nyx. She was pissed. She definitely feels Canopsia's like that passion, that kind of that really bitter, like all that bitterness, to her core too. This guy is really bad. He's terrible person, despicable really, and she's unimpressed with that. She's mad that she is frightened.
Right.
And she just does her best to like whip his ass. At the same time though, like she won't leave her friends' sides. So she sees Canopsia get hurt. She sees Bran throughout the course of the fight, getting really close to getting really badly hurt. And when they all have that, later in the fight, they have that opportunity to leave or, like a retreat in some way. She, I think I actually like stopped and was like, I'm so sorry, but, as much as I want her to, be safe too, she's gonna stay and she's gonna help Bran.
Right. Yes.
Because I remember that part of the night when that happened.
No, for sure. Now, so I kind of look at this as having three kind of possibilities, right? So Nyx standing their ground and fighting, they're frightened. So strategically, if you move away, that you won't be able to reapproach the creature. But you do have ranged weapons that you could use that, in a sense, do just about as much damage as your melee weapons. So there is the possibility that fear is strictly keeping Nyx attached and fighting with a fury. There is also the idea that anger, just this pure anger that everyone has towards this character now. And at one point you even said, like, I'm going to give this guy a war cry, just scream in his face. Like, I'm so angry with him. And you were so angry of being afraid. And it almost sounded like Nyx was more angry that they were frightened by this creature than they were at any trespasses it committed against you. And then the third thing would be a strictly sort of, like you said, a camaraderie of like, I'm going to stand my ground, and tactically being here is the best choice for all of my friends to survive. So do you think one of those three things was more important or more on the character's mind than the others? Or do you think it really was a well-balanced mix of all of them? What do you think?
I think it was definitely a mixture, but probably more of a mixture of like the second and third point.
Okay.
So, like standing her ground was part of, like, it was very tactical, but it was, at the same time, you're right. She was a lot angrier at the fact that she was frightened.
Mm-hmm.
She pushed herself because of that.
Right. And you even mentioned that you were like, I'm so angry, I think I'd throw my dagger at him. And I was pretty quick to be like, okay, let's not do that, because that's just going to leave you at too much of a disadvantage as a player. I didn't want you to do that, but yeah, so I would say that kind of aggression based on fear. So do you think Nyx was more like angry at the fact they were afraid, or angry that they were being betrayed by this king who was kind of being nice to them earlier? Because I feel like you're like, I know this guy is a piece of shit in my heart. And it seemed like you were more afraid or more angry at being afraid. So unpack that for us.
Yeah, like she knew from the very beginning that this guy was bad news. And, she just kind of has that disposition about most everybody besides the three she imprinted on. She's very suspicious of, the outside world and outsiders that aren't in her inner group or in her inner circle. So King Lycaon is like, he's like the ultimate like scumbag, right? So she's not surprised that he has done this and is being a horrible villain. So for me as her player, I really like tapped into this like rage as far as like being afraid goes. She wants very, very much to always protect her friends. And when she, is restrained, basically, in this instance, she's pissed. She wants to be able to pull her weight. She wants to push through that fear, but she can't go forward, so she stays close, and that was her strategy, purely because she wanted to be there to help strike him down and wipe him away. Ugh.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like I said, I think ultimately, even though the fight honestly didn't last a very long time, I still think you pegged him for probably the most amount of damage with just a consistent kind of repeating hits. So you definitely held your ground and got some good licks in there. Well, thank you for unpacking that for us. And just to get back to Rinveri outside, out on the porch, now wandering around, seeing some other things going on. I gave you a perception check, Endo, to notice Linus and two more of his brothers coming down the street ahead. And you realized you couldn't go back in the house. You couldn't warn the others. You couldn't tell if they were hurt, but Endo knew they were hurt and hurt bad on the inside.
Yeah.
So how did that round go for you? What were you feeling in that moment, seeing all this happen and also having to separate? Oh shit, I know I need to be inside.
Well, I felt bad that I couldn't, me as I'm the party healer, and Rinveri had put himself in a position where he couldn't help his party, and he's not it's not sinking in for him in that moment, but me, Endo, I'm just I'm supposed to heal you guys. I'm so sorry. but then also, again, trust, in your table. It's I'm going to trust you guys to be able to take care of yourselves. I know Juno had a conflicting moment of is it cowardly to back away and heal, know? Right. And we're all shouting no, it's not. No, let's find another day. And it's that. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Because it's as Big Beef, I want to be able to stand there and take it, but it's also
well, I mean, as a tank, it's I know. You do take the hits.
Know when to fall back.
Exactly. Yeah. And I wonder about Canopsia feeling that in the moment of all that anger and that passion you spoke of earlier. And I know in that moment, I'm sure he's grappling with that. I want to kill the shit out of this guy so bad. But
oh yeah, but ow, ouch. No, totally. Yeah, because I think when I asked that was also a K thought. That was coming out as a Juno thought, because it's I know for a fact that if he, if it were just him, he would stand on his own. He'd keep going. Mm-hmm. But he's not on his own. People are relying on him. So he has to fall back.
Yeah, I could totally see that in the moment for him, just thinking, I'll stay here and fight. But then it's no, I have other people depending on me. And then
exactly.
Back.
You get it. We're handshaking.
We're handshaking. Yeah.
Yay! Now, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Okay, so I want to touch on the fact, Rinveri, that we haven't quite awakened to the gods in our story yet, right? So the rule set that we worked up for the deities is not fully into play. We're actually kind of playing through the awakening that will hopefully be the kind of thing where when our campaign is done, we can hand these rule sets out to the rest of the world and they can play with the deities that we've created. But for the time being that we're kind of still in those early stages, you asked if you could pray using one of the abilities we hadn't quite unlocked yet. And since your character...
I'm sorry for spoiling that. I wasn't thinking about that because I was thinking Rinveri, he's already devout.
Yes.
Before we introduced to this part of the system or started getting into it. Yeah. He was a cleric and he's always been a holy man. And even if he is not a holy man in class, he's still a devout person. Yeah. And very spiritual. Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, speaking of all the other characters kind of showing their character through the fight, although Rinveri was affected by inebriation and fear, you still had that thread that runs through him, that very strong pull to the divine. And I thought that was great that you asked for that in that moment and to do that. And I would continue to encourage that regardless of any rule boon that you might get. I think just doing prayers in general in game is awesome because it validates that whole aspect of the game that so often gets forgotten, which is a big thing we're trying to rectify. But in that, like I said, if you'd have gotten like a baller roll, I know I would have given you the spotlight regardless. And, we would have worked it out later,
but dice tell the story. The dice knew it's like, hey, it's not time for that. Yeah,
exactly.
Why did you bring that up?
But
sorry.
you got a tough roll. But like I said, the fact that you even brought up that divinity would come into play moments later when you see the Linus and the other brothers like all transform fully into werewolves. And it strikes you again, this kind of fear of like, oh my God, this is bad. If I'm too afraid to go inside and there's 3 more of them out here and they're heading for the house, I don't holy shit, I know this is not a good situation. So in a 2-pronged question, how did you like that werewolf transformation for one? And for 2, you send message a second later to warn the party. What were your thoughts on how you could help the situation from there?
Well, okay, so did I like the werewolf transformation? I loved it. It was so nasty and gnarly. Like very, very horrible, very horror. I remember you had me like roll like a wisdom save, I think.
Yes.
Upon witnessing it. And didn't he got a high roll, if not nat 20'd on that?
Yes.
And I feel like that was been very channeling me as a player. Instead of being like getting pants shittingly terrified by it, he's staring at like, oh my God, that's actually fascinating. Like, whoa.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, that's creepy as shit. I like it.
Yeah. Like, goddamn, I know this is bad, but wow. Didn't think that's possible. Interesting. Yes.
Yeah. So again, trying to illustrate not just the ferocity of the transformation that they deal with, but trying to illustrate this sort of visual representation of this is who they are on the inside. That who you see like tearing away puppet.
this mask of humanity being visibly torn away, and inside they're beasts.
Yes.
And they're unrepentant beasts. And like it already showed on like do you have the picture of the 3 of them?
The 3 brothers? Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. Like look at these fucking crazy people. The one on the left, the one in the purple. I kept looking at him like I don't want to interact with him. I literally don't want to hear anything he has to say or anything because he's going to be bad.
I will say, I know you guys know I carefully curate and edit all of my AI prompts. They're not just straight from AI. I put a lot of work and Photoshop effort into piecing these together. But I will say, like in all the prompts I'm doing, which is literally dozens for every image you guys see, I got that fucking eyes, that set of eyes, and I was like, holy shit, that's the guy. Like, this is the guy because he fucking looks terrifying.
It absolutely makes the message clear. You don't mess with him.
Yes.
He's not okay.
That guy is fucking cray,
Yeah.
So in purple there, that is Canethus.
Canethus, okay.
Yeah. And in blue we have Anchior.
Okay. Anchior also looks bad, but he just looks super just angry.
Yeah, like definitely like Anchior looks like the guy that's like, I'm going to fuck you up and like steal your money. And then Canethus looks like the guy who's like, I'm going to fuck you up and then play with your body.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely. Ugh. And just all 3 of them, very scary.
Some tough customers,
For sure.
But again, like in werewolf form, these guys are just at a whole other level of like, holy shit.
That's terrifying. And it made sense for like the fight, how it did go. Like facing werewolves is not a walk in the park, especially a werewolf king. So thank God prayer assisted. But yeah. and you asked me my plans for what, like my game plan from being outside.
Yeah, like how were you still planning on helping the party from that point? Because the message was a great idea. Just to warn them that stuff was coming was not something I thought you'd be able to do. And honestly, everyone fared way better in this fight than I thought you would be. I thought I would bring you guys to the brink of fucking death. So
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, this could have gone a lot worse. Like
Yes.
nobody went down, period.
Mhm.
Like we did great. We did great surviving that. And I was really happy that I was able to use message, because I was looking at my spell list thinking like, I hope I have message, and I see it there like, thank God. Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks past me. But I was really glad I could give everybody the heads up to at least, help positioning or getting the fuck out of there, which I know like Juno immediately was like, we got to get out, guys.
Okay,
This is
yeah.
not a good situation.
I was going to say, so that was pretty much the plan from the message forward then, huh? Was like, get out of there. And
Mm-hmm.
I hate to say that's like a round 2 decision for you guys. Like it has not been very long, but you guys got the message that you were grossly out fighting out of your weight class here.
We're quick learners.
Yes. Yeah.
Like Canopsia got
Quick learners,
massively hurt.
experienced.
Exactly. And experienced adventures. And like, I think being an experienced adventurer also knows like not every fight is winnable.
Well,
You have to take a tactical
Exactly.
retreat. And this was one of those times.
I think the best fighters will agree that any fight you walk away from was won,
Yeah, right. Exactly. Live
Yeah.
to fight another
Yeah.
day. For sure.
Exactly. So I think that was a very wise strategy. Again, I had made a comment during the game that you guys avoid the battle bar, which is what we call like our combat scene when we're playing, but you guys avoid combat really, really well.
Yeah.
Like you do an excellent job of not just murder hoboing everything you see. So I think that like that really played into the fact that you guys are smart and tactical about what you're doing. But I am not experienced playing with a party that is not stubborn blockheads that are like, we will fucking die here fighting you, man.
I know. No, well, I mean, like, I think it's because of like the types of characters, like these characters that we brought into here, because I mean, like, thinking about my other characters that I play, they definitely would have like knuckled down on these fucking fights. Like, let's go. And gotten way more fights. Just really raring to go. Rinberry, not one of them.
Okay.
Loves diplomacy above all.
Okay. So you guys think you just have a uniqueness among the party itself, not just as players.
Yeah, because we spend a lot of time thinking about how our characters would navigate these situations, and I think largely we are a party of like violence is not a first option.
Mm-hmm. And would everyone else kind of agree there and think that
for the most part, I think so. I yeah, and I think some of us may be more inclined to start fighting or retaliating with violence right off the bat. I'm not pointing any fingers because I can't, but I am kind of looking at Nyx. But I think Nyx is the most ready to throw down for a fight.
Well,
Finished followed by Bran.
Yeah, exactly. And it is Bran. Yeah.
It definitely seemed like we got to the point where everyone had made the decision to leave, and Nyx was like, okay, everyone else out first. I'm going to keep stabbing this guy.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I love that about Nyx. I love how Nyx repeatedly always stands her ground in situations where it's like, okay, we should back away. Like thinking about in the Black Forest where we met the satyr, but we didn't know it was a satyr yet. And Nyx standing her ground.
Yeah,
like,
everyone's like, let's all hide. And you're like, I stand in the street and I face the incoming hoofbeats.
I know,
you're
our
like,
rogue, the sneaky one.
I love her.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like,
Yeah,
damn,
it's
that's
awesome.
baller.
Yeah. And I think that really speaks to like the fieriness of her personality, even though she's supposed to be the sneaky, stealthy one, which she still is. But it's just she is not afraid of anything.
Yeah.
And I love that. And just, her ability to stand her ground is really awesome. And but sorry, I forgot what I was talking about.
No, you're okay.
Nyx is so cool and awesome.
So no, Nick's definitely standing their ground is great, but I want to get back to this prayer and the lightning strike that ends up happening a moment or two later. And from your kind of prayer sparks this moment where you realize, hey, something bad is incoming. Something bad's about to happen here. And you feel all those hairs in the back of your neck stand up, and you're able to duck in time where everyone has to make a save for a massive lightning strike that basically cuts the building in half where you guys are at, causing half of it to fall off into the sea right as Linus and the other werewolf brothers are running into the front of the building. So Canopsy is already trying to escape. They're literally like, Juno is like, I want to jump out the fucking window and like dive like 25 feet into the rocky shoals below.
An image. I have an image, a cinematic image in my brain. And I will not stop thinking about it until I have at least one opportunity to perform.
Yes.
No, and go ahead.
I wanted to say there's one thing I wanted to touch on. Like, one of the questions was like, what was my plan being outside there?
Yes.
It was basically like, if I can't be in the fight, like, information gathering, basically seeing what I can observe, like, for our next step. So, because I remember like asking, is there a window I can look into? And like, you had this section of the house blocked off, and I was thinking like, oh, maybe grandma's in there. If I can just peep in there, we can find grandma, and then maybe I can get grandma out. But that's not where things went. Yeah.
No, that was very smart, though. I hadn't considered that somebody would try looking in that third room, or the fourth room, rather. So, yeah, that was another cool aspect that I thought was a lot of fun. And, of course, was really meant, right? Like, if we'll pull back the curtain a little bit on the encounter now that it's over. And Dusk had asked me before, like, was the thunder strike pre-planned, you know? So considering I had that full other map of like destroyed ruins, yeah, absolutely. I know that question comes from, was there something else, some other catalyst for that fire and or explosion? But no, it was always planned to be a lightning strike, you know? And that half of the cliff would kind of fall off into the sea. The idea being here was this was an unwinnable fight for you guys, right? This is kind of that first clash with the big bad where you're supposed to lose and get your ass whipped. And then, you know, that's that story beat, you know? So I know that going in to me. You guys don't know that. Clearly, Juno was like, I'm going to kill this motherfucker in 2 seconds. I'm going to jump on the bed, whip his ass. And then things went real bad, real fast.
Yeah, we didn't know that going into the fight, but I think we all immediately realized, right. Story beat of the adventurers. Yeah. And encounter with the big bad.
Now, here's the thing, right? Like, for dungeon masters out there that are planning and prepping their own games, game masters, you can't just do that all the time. That's too predictable, right? If you guys think back to our first kind of adventure, you know, that spanned the few sessions we spent in O'Dare, right? You had several other small bosses that you fought along the way that led up to the big boss. You confront the big boss, you kill the big boss, right? So this story kind of different. You really don't run into anything that is a combatant, right? Until you hit the big bad, and the big bad is like, I'm going to kill you personally. So very different story beat, but also kind of tells a different story. And that's the thing. You want that variety, that variation, so that your players are kept guessing as well. And they're not so, you know, just doing the same thing over and over again, repetitious, you know? So getting into that and saying, okay, this is that moment. I know that I don't want to just have you guys all get killed right here, you know? I am expecting you guys will fight tooth and nail and never fucking leave this house. Because like I said, that is what I expect from most D&D parties. They're like, we're fucking heroes, guys. We were born to win this fight. We're the one who's going to kill these people because we're the good guys. And oftentimes you're like, it's not that easy, man. Okay. But in this particular instance, I was like, once you guys get beat up too badly, I'll have to have some sort of divine intervention. And considering the whole aspect here is that these people are punished by the gods. If they are coming after you and you are the chosen of the gods, they're certainly not going to fall asleep and, you know, let you guys get totally ass whipped by some joker that they already hate and keep an eye on because they hate him, you know? That being said, the deities are all asleep, right? So how do I really sell this idea that you guys have managed to do something that would get the gods' attention? And I'm not going to spoil what my plan was, because I'm going to put that in my bag of tricks for later. But Rinveri going out of his way to do a very sporadic prayer that was very dedicated and committed and half drunk and very weird definitely seemed like the kind of thing that would get the gods' attention. Your prayer of like, dear Holy One, who right now is far too bright. Ugh, you know?
Yes.
I was like, you know what? I like that. That can be our story beat for this, where Rinveri, who is actively a person most devout already, is seeking that favor from the gods, you know? Does that resonate? Will that get through to these sleeping deities who may subconsciously protect you? So that being the case, of course, this lightning strike happens, and we already established that the werewolves running through the house are having a hard time on the hardwood floor, because all dogs do, and that's fucking hilarious. But the thing to me was, I know that the wolves will all slide into the water, not fatally, but a way where they are out of commission and give you a chance to escape. And your guys' plan was to jump out of the windows into the place where I was going to send the bad guys. So yeah, I was I was sweating, dude. I was sweating. I knew I had to make you make the rolls, but I'm like, do I have a gust of wind blow Juno back in the fucking window if Canopsia jumps? I didn't know what to do. I had no idea. So Canopsia, from your point of view, how did you feel biffing it on that table trying to jump out the window? Because I feel like that was a last straw for you and the dice roller on D&D Beyond. But as a character, what do you think Canopsia was feeling?
Bad. Bad, man. Do you fucking feel? He biffed it twice.
Yeah.
Twice. He biffed it on the nightstand and then the table.
Now, let me ask you a direct like DM to player question, because this is the part I'm curious of. When that happens and I tell you, hey, no, you fall right there. You cannot escape. Was there ever a worry that, like, me as the DM, I'm trying to force you into this fight, that I'm trying to keep you from escaping? Or did you feel like it was just bad luck, bad dice rolls? Because I very much did not want you to escape.
Yeah. No. Bad luck, bad dice rolls. I mean, I think I don't know. Like, I have, I'm not, okay. I am not the most experienced D&D player by any means. I'm sure every listener out there that has played D&D for 5 minutes longer than I have will be like, yeah, bitch, we know. We know you're bad at making decisions, and and when it comes to combat choices, and it's like,
no, you're not. You're doing great.
No,
doing great.
I know. It needs work. It needs work. I'll say that. And when it comes, I hate you, D&D Beyond. I say it in Tavern Talk, and I'm still denouncing them. I still hate you, D&D Beyond. You fucked me so bad that entire game. I started out really strong, okay? I nat 20'd on the initiative order, and that felt really good. And then it immediately went downhill. It all went bad. So it's like, I think Juno, as a player, have gotten better and at reading when it comes to like where DM wants me to go or what is going to happen. So it's like, well, Juno, did not want to stay in there. I had trust in you that you would, you'd do something. You were gonna, because it's like that
I wasn't trying to pin you down and kill you. You knew that much.
I knew that, definitely. Like I know that usually if DM isn't letting us do something, whether it be go into a room or talk to somebody or whatever, it's for a good reason, and it's probably because they have something in their pocket later. And I'm assuming you not letting me break out of the window was a part of that.
Well,
so I was
the nice
like,
part is
okay.
it wasn't me that
Yeah.
didn't let you, like
Mhm.
the dice did.
Oh,
So
no.
that's
Well,
good.
no, I know that, but still.
Yeah, it's nice for me to know that if I hadn't let you, it's still it still wouldn't have been too like, damn, dude, you're trying to kill us here. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Because I've had that happen before, where like you'll put people in a tough scenario that does have a simple answer to get out, or maybe the whole objective is I can't win this fight, and like you have to learn the lesson to retreat, and they don't get it, and they blame you as the DM and tell you like, oh, you're just trying to kill us, and I'm like, no, not every fight is a fight where you win because you killed your opponent. You know, that's not always the case. Sometimes success is measured differently. And I think that's a lesson all D&D players should face at some point. And it's like the Kobayashi Maru. Some scenarios are unwinnable. You just got to get the fuck out of there, you know?
Oh yeah, it's like, here's the thing. It's like I have my I'm not afraid of cowardice. I'm not afraid of fleeing. I'm not afraid of running away. And I and I live by this mantra: if shit sucks, hit the brakes. And shit was sucking super hard, not just for me, but also for everybody.
Yeah.
Everyone. Renveri seeing a man shed his literal skin outside, not only just one man, several men. And then there's the whole trying to wrap King Lycaon in a blanket.
Yep.
He keeps ripping the blanket, trying to wrangle that thing. Nyx and being frightened and just attack the whole time. It's like, yeah, bad news bears.
So
Bad news bears.
It was a rough go for sure, and that was the intent. And I think that like I honestly thought the fight would go on a lot longer before I'd have to kind of step in and intervene. So you guys actually read the room like a lot better than I thought you would, and realized, okay, we need to plan a better way to attack. Like we have basically been ambushed here. We have been tricked, and we walked into a trap. This is not going to be a successful outcome for us. So you guys all leaving at that point, and then or this thunder strike giving you guys the opportunity to leave, kind of wraps up this fight here, where now you guys get out into the street. There's again, a great job of Bran being done, who is like, I have kept King Lycaon from attacking all of my friends. He didn't get to bite anyone else. I think in the end, I do not think you got any damage on King Lycaon, if I'm not mistaken. Or if you did, very, very little. But he is now in the drink.
I did no damage.
Okay. Yeah. So you sacrificed that. You sacrificed your training to save your friends, which I think is an amazing feature for Bran. I want you to unpack that a little bit, but also the moment of like everyone is diving into the sea, you decide to take it upon yourself to say Bran is going to make sure that both Nyx and Canopsia, I physically help them get out of here and make sure that they're okay, rather than run to save my own skin. So again, unpack for us just as briefly as you can, because I know we're running a little long here, but the Bran's protection of his friends, where does that come from? What does that mean to Bran?
So sometimes it is just like there are a few decisions I make as like Bran that like it takes me a moment after session to unpack myself. One of those being a insane decision that happened later, heart emoji. I think it is fully just like learning from all of his companions, really, of like taking that moment to make sure everyone is okay, that everyone's getting out safe, that we are a unit and we are a family.
Well, that is quite a touching sentiment coming from you, Bran, that you are not going anywhere without your friends here. And I think that is something that also a lot of D&D players out there kind of forget. They get in this mindset of, I'm a thief, or, I'm a war priest or a warlock or something. And then they say, I'm just out for myself. And then they fuck over their party. So it's awesome to see you guys really looking at yourselves as though like we're the only dogs we have in this race, and I am going to stick by my buddies here no matter what. And, I'm sure it helps that you guys are kind of strangers in a strange land kind of motif, but ultimately I don't think it'd matter where you guys were. I think that's always how Bran would act. And you're right. We do get a bit of that a little bit later on, which we will touch base on, but just to fill in the gaps for the viewers. So at this point, once you guys get out of the house, you realize the guards are coming. There's a fire for the first time in Arcadia in hundreds of years. People are freaking out. The streets are filling with people. And Rinveri manages to catch eyes with a mysterious silhouette out in the distance. And as the rest of the party approaches, you guys realize it is Prince Menelaus waving you guys down an alley like he wants to help you guys. So this is the first time now that you guys have seen Menelaus in a little bit, and he is trying to get you out of this crowd, away from the house, and presumably to a safe location. So Rinveri, did you think this was another ploy of some kind, or were you kind of full faith, hey, this is Menelaus, we were looking for him when he was sick earlier, his dad's been bagging on him, we feel safe with him? Which was it?
So when I know Rinveri rolled low for that perception to spot the shadow. So I didn't know what it was, but I had a feeling. I'm like, I think we're supposed to follow this. And I think in that moment, like, the other side was like guards, and then the other side was we jump off a cliff into the ocean. So Rinveri, like, I don't understand like what I just saw, but I think this is our best option. And in a way, Rinveri likes to preach about having faith. So he had faith in that this is the right decision. And then seeing it's Menelaus was a surprise, because Menelaus was not one of the people I was expecting to see. For some reason, I thought we were going to see old man Sean Connery. Or old man Sean Connery.
Yeah. Devlin.
Oh my gosh, me too. I was wondering the same thing.
Oh, yeah. Nice. Okay.
Yeah, I thought it would have been Devlin, or like maybe Grandma. Maybe it was actually Grandma who came to help us.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I didn't know who this silhouette would be, and then seeing it's Menelaus, I like Endo always has a little bit of suspicion. Just always. Rinveri, thinking about his perspective, I think he was feeling a little iffy about dealing with this family, but like Menelaus is different. He was obviously different from the rest of his family, like ever since we like found him and stuff. And Rinveri had been worried about Menelaus, like picking up on that he is different from his father,
right?
His one of many brothers. But yeah, so there was a relief and a desire to trust Menelaus and seeing him.
Well, that's good. Okay, so yeah, that I really didn't think about all of those other characters coming to the aid as well. It's very cool that you guys did, because of course, I'm just planning out the story of, how to deliver more information, all those sorts of things. And I know, okay, here's a figure that's going to be able to tell you guys what's up. But I was very much like, I don't know if you guys will trust him and go with him. So you clearly didn't have a ton of choice, like you said.
No, there wasn't. Yeah.
But it really felt like you guys were putting a lot of faith in this guy. And I thought that was awesome.
Yeah.
Knowing that you had helped him earlier and hopefully had put the pieces together that he didn't really seem to affect what was going on. And part of that carefully crafted line from earlier from King Lycaon was to describe his anger and dislike of you and that of his son, right? Knowing that if you ran into him later, that he wasn't a part of this,
Yeah.
So hopefully that helped inform the decision to trust him as well. But as you guys move along with him into the street, there's some very cool, like Assassin's Creed deception, hiding through, staying away from the guards. I thought this was a very fun moment through the game. I think this session cut out by itself, that piece of it is going to be a lot of fun for our listeners out there too. But it's exciting, and you're trying to hide. And in one instance, I know there's a moment where you ask Menelaus, hey, I saw some of your other brothers back there. You know, they all turn into werewolves. Like, can all you guys turn into werewolves? And he's like, yeah, I'm cursed with the same thing or whatever. And you're like, well, how many brothers do you have, man?
Yeah.
And he's like, you know, I have over 40. You know? And you guys are like, holy shit.
Yeah, just choking on air, like, what?
I didn't want to say it because I didn't think Bran would say it, or at least not externally, but damn, Lycaon, you fuck.
Wasn't there also, like, we were joking, like, Bran wondering, like, am I one of your brothers?
I have black hair.
Bran looks
Man,
like them, yeah.
I
Yeah.
am large and hairy.
Things are adding up, and I don't like it.
Well, I definitely like harken back in my own brain to like the first time you all saw the image of you know, non-werewolf King Lycaon, that it was just like, oh, don't hit on the king, don't hit on the king, don't hit on the king.
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I think it checks out, right? But ultimately, yeah, hey, there was no TV back then, you know? And the guy's been alive for centuries. What's he going to do with himself?
nothing better to do than smash.
Nope.
But this leads into the whole conversation of like, hey, what's been going on here? Why are they so shitty to you? Why are you not trying to kill us? Like, what the hell seems to be going on here? To which Menelaus is kind of starts dropping you the exposition for the adventure here. Like, what is really going on? And I love the comment from Endo at one point. You mentioned to me, like, boy, this is a very different Menelaus than we had early on. Like, he is so much more composed and like registered and checked into what's happening than the frightful person that we first met. So I know you're still trying to suss that out, and you have a little bit more adventuring to do with Menelaus coming up. So we're not going to touch on that too much, but it just was a great observation. But I do want to get into the idea of one thing that Bran said was that in the pilot kind of session we did for Pristine Dreams, I had a whole segment of Bran like kind of arguing with Carl about whether or not they would cook and eat human flesh during your guys' time at the war camp. And
you know, proposed cannibalism.
Yeah.
Crazy. That wouldn't possibly come up again.
To be fair to Carl, it's not
Foreshadowing.
cannibalism. It's just meat.
yeah. For Carl it was. But the
Yeah.
interesting connection there, of course, being that Menelaus now proceeds to tell you guys that, you know, Arcadia is a place that does not like the deities, but not because we think they are immoral or bad to us, but because we, like his father, King Lycaon, had betrayed the gods, had started committing cannibalism and eating outsiders and luring them in so that he could feast upon human flesh. And at one point, the gods themselves kind of had heard rumor of this, came themselves to see if it was true, and got served human flesh themselves, at which point they cursed Lycaon to forever be the animal that he is, at which point kind of creates this lycanthropy that henceforth spreads throughout all of reality and pop culture from there. But him kind of being like this OG level werewolf made him like kind of hate the gods, that he was like, oh, I am cursed and I am punished, but he knows he did something wrong, but he still wants to be in charge. And he has kind of spun this through a bit of propaganda throughout the centuries that like, they are all these like chosen special people. They're the monarchy who has these special abilities and can keep the gods at bay with their strength and might. And then we don't have to make sacrifices and bullshit to them anymore. So he has convinced his people to sort of renounce the gods. And Menelaus is like, I don't like that because it's a sham. It's not true. Like we said earlier, he's being a phony and he's deceiving these people. So Menelaus, knowing the truth, you know, being that part of the inner circle, is like, I am unwilling to partake in this. And he notices the bite that Canopsia has and mentions to you, like, you know, when the next, you have till the next full moon comes up. Cause I know Canopsy was shitting a brick over finding out they were going to turn into a werewolf. And I want to hear from Juno about that in a second, but I just want to finish. So he says the next full moon comes up. You will be filled with bloodlust. You will want to eat someone, you know, as you turn into a werewolf. But you can resist that urge. It is extremely difficult and will probably be the hardest thing you've ever done in your life, but it does get easier with each passing decade. In regards to Bran discovering that Menelaus was missing an arm, and you guys kind of, I think Rinveri was the one who asked, like, oh, you were shot before. Did that injury lead to your arm getting cut off? And he tells you, no, this was punishment from my father, you know, that my arm was cut off. What the injury I had was being shot by a silver-tipped arrow, right? Which should give you guys a bunch of clues about different things that are going on. But did you guys, was anyone making the connection yet of the Xenia and what it was you all ate at the dinner?
I think my brain refused to make the connection.
Same.
Yeah.
I would,
Gross.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Juno.
Welcome back.
Thank you. I don't want to say I called it. I don't think I did, but I thought about it a lot.
You were very
Same.
close, because I know you mentioned something about cannibalism, and then you were like, Chavez, you made a face. Why'd you make a face? And I was like, I didn't make a face, bro. And you were like, you made a face, dude. You know?
Yeah, Chavez, I don't think you understand. When you make a face, I know I got you.
It was a very subtle thing. I thought it was a good, like, get out
I
of here.
don't care. Even if it's subtle, a DM knows when you start to
Seriously, when you start to DM, and I mean it, when you start to DM and you can and you can see the other person's face, game changer. I know I'm gonna be fucked when, you know, should we ever play in person? Oh my gosh. Oh my god.
I was gonna say you're gonna make me use this avatar when we're doing PD too.
Yeah, you have to wear like a whole face like a whole face mask, the whole thing. You just like can't, you know, you can't read me from over there if you can't see my facial expressions. And it's like, it's true. I can't.
So I went back to specifically check this after session because Bran, you had brought it up and I wanted to make sure I had the facts right. So this is wow, again, top tier sweating. We didn't discuss it in last Tavern Talk because we couldn't, but Bran, you asked if you could roll to identify the meat you guys were eating before the centerpiece was served. And
I see.
if you remember, I made a very important note of telling you, like, oh, these are all different cured meats from different types of animals and stuff. You recognize most of it, but you notice there is not a centerpiece served yet, and you guys should not fill up on this other bullshit. Right? So that was what you told the other people.
So subtle.
There's a centerpiece coming and you guys can't eat too much of it. So by the time the centerpiece comes out and you see that it's completely raw and not cured like the other meats, there's no more question of the origin of the meat, you know?
Mm-hmm. I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah. I'm telling you guys all my tricks and now you're going to see through them later, but I did want to let you know, I did play that one fair. I didn't misinform you.
I appreciate that.
But upon
I appreciate the transparency.
Yeah, of course. Upon that realization, though, that, you know, when you're like, because everyone kind of accepted punishment at face value, like, damn, that's fucked up. You just cut your arm off. That's horrible, you know? But then as the evening goes on, you guys end up like getting a moment to kind of stop and talk, and we'll get into where in a minute, but you get that moment to kind of stop and talk and discuss more about what happened to Prince Menelaus. And when he mentions to you that, or he kind of says, you know, that his arm was what was served up as the Xenia, right? What were you guys' kind of thoughts? Does anyone want to comment on what you were thinking in that moment?
Rage, anger, rage, anger, rage. I think Canopsia specifically even asked, "What? Like, what did you say?" Like, I think that is specifically what he said. Like, no, no, we fucking didn't. No, we didn't eat your arm. No, we didn't. No.
Say
No,
psych right
baby.
now. I'm being
Say psych
pranked.
right now. No,
I
bitch.
know, and
you
I'm
ate
just,
a man's arm.
I'm just thinking back to the actual dinner itself. Bran being like, "Nah, I just dive right in. It's no problem," you know, and then everyone else having that hesitation, you know, and knowing that like this is part of the buy-in to the adventure, right? This is kind of what's going to happen. And then, like I said, forgetting that Rinveri was a vegetarian and putting you guys in that situation and having it have been such a much more of a prominent moment than I thought. I thought it would definitely be the kind of thing originally during the dinner of the Xenia. You take a bite of raw meat, that's gross. I forget all about it. But that ended up being such an impactful moment because of Rinveri and because of Nyx being like, "Where's your fire? Don't make my friend do this," you know? And again, all of that was built into tension that would ignite the fight earlier, right? But now seeing and understanding why he was so adamant about having you eat that, you know, and to basically say like, "You're no better than me. You did the same thing than me. The gods won't love you any more than me," you know, like that's his intention. So how does that make you guys feel knowing that that was the plot that he had all along, that in a sense, whether or not he kills you in that moment, he's got the gods to frown their nose at you.
I've already talked about Canopsia and his very strong compass for justice. And I have already talked about Canopsia and how he does not tolerate disrespect. And this was the extreme length of disrespect. Of lying, of mischief, of, you know, every trick in the book being used to pull the curtain over your eyes, and it's disgusting.
Yeah.
And I think Canopsia even made a point of like, "I want to wear your head on my fucking belt because and I'm gonna enjoy it. I'm gonna enjoy it." Because again, Canopsia, who is very no nonsense, do no harm, take no shit, and this is the hugest platter of shit he has ever been served, ever. And again, Prince Menelaus having to basically tell them that and basically be like, "Yeah, you ate my arm," and this is something that my father and my family have been doing for a very long time. Yes. Yeah. And it makes Canopsia so deeply angry, and I think that just pushes his need for justice even further, not just for his friends, not just for him, but also for the Prince Menelaus and every other adventurer who has fallen to the misfortune and to the trickery and the deceit of Arcadia and King Lycaon. And
passion of a paladin right there.
I'm so deeply sorry for my Canopsia tangents.
You're fine. Yeah.
Stop apologizing. It's good.
But
I get nervous about how much
that's
I
our
talk.
special care.
Speaking of that kind of passion, though, Rinveri being devout, kind of learning here that you've done something that literally cursed these other people, you know, how do you feel that he's going to internalize that, or going forward, like how does that feel knowing that you may have really, really, really done something awful in the eyes of your or possibly other deities?
Well, first of all, we got tricked. We didn't know. And I think that's a huge oversight on Lycaon's part. He's like, haha, you ate people. And it's just like, well, you've been eating people knowingly this whole time. You tricked us. You did the wrong thing. You forced us to.
Yes.
And for Rinveri, like, choice and being able to choose your own path, do what you believe is right or what you want to do is very important to him. Like he spoke of it before when they had their little sleepover talk in the tent where he's like, fuck prophecy.
Yeah.
And it's just like for him, it's like being chosen is honor. He is an honor. He chooses to, you know, abide the gods, to follow a certain path. But it's important to always have a choice. And so this whole Xenia thing and being forced to eat flesh, period, but especially human flesh, like their choice and everything being removed from them, very, very angering. And just thinking about everything Lycion has done, like, yeah, all the fallen adventurers before them, and just that he's been doing this for God knows how long.
Yeah.
Like, it's rage. It's also rage building up inside of Renberry. But I think he...
Go ahead. Finish.
I was just saying, I think, like, for him, the way he processes, like, this deep anger and rage, it's I think it's different from the way perhaps Canopsia or Bran or maybe Nyx does. He does it very quietly, and I noticed with him in moments of like where he is being wronged, he doesn't really speak up on it, like on his own behalf or anything like that. Because like back during the dinner and everything, I love that everybody was trying to help Renberry out of it.
Yes.
And Renberry was very quiet. And again, in this moment, like the reveal of like, yeah, they ate my arm. Renberry, yeah, like I think he was like compartmentalizing that. Like,
do you think that like in a way Renberry's past kind of factors into kind of this compartmentalization, the trauma from his past?
Yeah, definitely. And just the way, him compartmentalizing and trying like not to immediately react to something. Like the stuff from his past, which I will not super get into, like I've mentioned it before, he was a bandit, and it's like in his opening, raised by his abusive bandit uncle, Rafney. Like there's a lot of stuff that obviously like it plays into how he is now, and a lot of him, like himself, it's like a lot of composure that he tries to be mindful of. And so I think that plays into him being quiet in moments of where he's been wronged and stuff like that.
Yeah, that you know how to deal with it.
Yeah, or he tries to. He thinks he does. But then, you know, he had that moment of kind of falling apart when he had to do something that it was a big deal for him to eat meat, period, because that's the whole thing with his past. But yeah. And his response to that was to like to drink, to kind of like help temper how much that messed him up, which not a great response, and he's not proud of what happened.
Right, the consequences of that drinking, leaving you out of the fight and everything like that. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So he is not really happy about what he did, and he's got some like self-reflection, like some cleric style self-reflection to do later. So lots of prayer.
Yeah.
But yeah. Sorry, I feel like I'm going on a tangent.
No, you're okay. You're okay. It's interesting to see all the layers of this as it goes along, and even Nyx piping in to kind of defend you Cypher doing that, you know, to defend Renberry is very reminiscent of Nyx having the same amount of passion for you not having to do that in the original dinner, and now going back and seeing that like your decision to relent and not dig your heels in and not start a fight right then and there has still ended with a fight and ended with your friend having committed like a really creepy fucking thing. How does that make Nyx feel in regards to, fuck, should I have just fought that fight then? Or am I not going to give people that chance a second time? What do you think? By the way, can I just say, Dust just messaged that they're going to grab food, and the fact that they're doing that now, that's wow. You've got a cast iron stomach, my friend. I hope it's nothing
for
too meaty.
listeners,
knows
it's
no boundaries.
Yeah, it's pizza and garlic bites apparently. So,
Okay,
yeah.
meat lovers pizza. Hell yeah! No, just kidding.
That would ruin me, actually.
Anyways, getting back to Nyx, I'm sorry. So coming back to, you still ended up with a fight, and Rinveri may now in fact have committed an atrocity against the deities. How do you feel Nyx is feeling about all that, or responding to it?
I feel as though like yeah, I think that when they find this out, when this information is laying out there for them to react to, she is in shock. And as far as what she thinks about, Rinveri's state might be, or standing might be with the gods, I don't know if, I honestly don't know if I thought about that in the moment. But here, thinking about it now, Nyx definitely feels like sympathy for Rinveri. She did at the dinner. It was like a defiant sympathy. And here now, she's in the game right now. She's still in shock. She doesn't really know what to think. She feels, a little ill about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that I can say, for her friends, she's definitely like sympathetic and angry for them, so.
For sure. Do you think Nyx in the future would be so willing to let things go when she says no, or is it just too situationally weird?
I think in this situation, she, King Lycaon really, he put on quite the convincing farce. And for Nyx, when he basically talked her down with her tail between her legs, like she yielded because he made sense. That's something, that I feel Nyx is better at than her player is. Like, I think that Nyx is much more logical and everything. I have a way of, being a little abstract with my thought process. But Nyx, I'm able to tap into, a character who's a lot more straightforward. And when it makes sense, then she can feel at ease. So she went ahead and, even though she didn't wanna, he was making sense. And it was, again, also motivated to protect her friends, to protect everybody's dignity in this moment, where King Lycaon made it very clear that the disrespect was going to make them enemies,
Right.
So,
right. Well, see,
yeah.
I think that's what's so interesting to me about Nyx is most people you meet who play a rogue or a thief type character are going to go charisma heavy and be a bluff expert or something like that. And that is not Nyx at all. Nyx is still a very logical, like diplomatic person, more so than someone who acts purely on feelings and emotions and stuff. And again, you're a hothead, which is a little different than saying like what I mean, so that's an emotional response on one hand, but you're not out there trying to schmooze or bullshit people, where on the flip side of that, I think King Lycaon very much is like, he's very much that kind of person who, like I said, he's very graceful. He's very suave. He's good looking. He's charming, and he's pulled the wool over everyone's eyes. And he's continuing to do the same thing to you, even when you're trying to combat him with logic, just because he is that good at that game of bullshit. And it's funny because I think ultimately, as a sorcerer, Rinveri is the better rival to that sort of charisma-based thing, especially with their response that I love a few minutes ago of being like, well, if the deities wanted to call me out on eating meat, my defense is like, hey, man, I was bamboozled. I didn't even know what I was doing. You know, you're like,
exactly. I was being a good guest and eating the fucking meat being served to me.
Exactly.
Like, I didn't know.
I thought I was doing
You
the
were
right
being
thing.
a good house. Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm only a guest. I don't know.
Xenia.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, very interesting insight into Nyx though, and that kind of more logical progression to what's going on. And seeing how like I love that Nyx is not like a vengeful person. You know what I mean? That you talk about being kind of hot-headed and popping off and ready to attack, but you're not a person seeking violence, and you're not a person like seeking hurting people, you know? So that's interesting. It's a very nuanced character. Very cool, man. I really like it. So to kind of wrap things up, right, we'll talk just very briefly about one of my favorite moments of the evening, which was arriving at the apothecary, right? So this apothecary is so funny because I just knew I needed a safe place for you guys to go, somewhere for you guys to be. That would be a place you guys could sit down and talk to Menelaus. And scratching my head back and forth about, oh man, should he know somebody who's a fellow kind of rebel like him? Should there be another brother of his that's also kind of happy to see him? It could be his mom or something. Could he take them back to the palace? That seems too dangerous. Well, should they go straight to grandma's house? Should they go back out in the Black Forest? Like there's a million places the story can go. And you all presented me with the best option by making a friend your first few minutes in town. And we end up at Stavos's apothecary here in town.
I was so happy you prepped Stavos because like I was thinking, like when we're in the sewers thinking about it, I'm like, where do we go? Oh, that guy, Stavos. You made a pretty big deal out of it. So
And it's so funny because to me, it was like you guys made a big deal about remembering him later on when we got to the palace. You specifically asked about him at a point when I had kind of, oh, he's out of sight, out of mind. He's an NPC. But you guys mentioned him in that moment. And it got me thinking that I was like, okay, this is the perfect avenue to have. But it needs to be a little bit organic in the sense of like, I want to put you guys in a position where the prince is in kind of the slums. I don't hang out here, dude. So I don't really know where we're going from here or what we should do or where we should hide out. It's too bad you guys don't know anybody here. And then you guys presented me with that suggestion of, and I think it was E that did, like, hey, didn't that one guy say his business was down this way like that, you know?
mm-hmm.
And that was so perfect. So did you feel like you were guided into that, or did you feel like that was very natural? Did you have any idea that would have been something I'd have prepped?
I wasn't thinking about it. No, I didn't know where we were going, but like it felt like it made sense. And then when I saw you reveal Stavos, it felt good that it felt like we both kind of read each other in a way, you know?
Yeah.
Like we were getting what each other was putting down. Like I thought Stavos was a bigger deal than you thought in the beginning.
Yes.
Like, cause yeah. And I like hearing that the moment where he did become a bigger part was when we checked back on him.
Yes.
When we're at the palace.
Yeah.
I thought it was just that the whole time. I thought I would have guessed you set him up to be that link and just be like, I hope you guys remember. And if you don't remember, I'm going to have you do some rolls so you can remember this guy.
Yeah. No, very
dude,
interesting. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is why I love playing with you guys, because like I didn't think about him. I was like super surprised, you know, when you brought him up, E, and I was just like, oh, that makes sense. Maybe we can, and so like as soon as you said it, it made perfect sense. And then I still did not think that we were going to get a picture of Stavros, like a whole
I didn't think so
straight
either.
up
Same.
storefront and the inside of his store. I had no ideas. I was very pleasantly surprised, and he is adorable.
Yeah.
I know. We love him. We're going to protect him forever.
I know
Yep.
I had mentioned last Tavern Talk that a lot of the bathhouse images I had made after the fact and put them in. But typically everything else that the audience sees is what the players see for the first time. That's literally the only instance. That and Lycion eating, looking angry. Those are the only two images I've made post since we've been playing. So thank you guys so much. I think that's so cool. But yes, this is collaborative storytelling. That's what D&D is about, right? And let that be a lesson for all the DMs and players out there. When they bite on a character like that, he can be part of your story now. You know, find a way to work him back in. Like, you guys were hooked onto Stavros, you know? And to me, I normally DM kind of trick up my sleeve is I normally keep a list of region specific names, right? Usually 10 male, 10 female that I just keep in the background on some page of my PC. So I know if you guys are like, we want to talk to this random fucking guy in the street, boom, his name is John. You know, whatever name that I have listed, but they can be region specific. So this is one of the few instances I did not do that. I was not prepared when we walked into Arcadia for you guys to meet with local people. So I had to pull the name Stavros out of the sky. I had to give this guy, I have an apothecary. So I'm making that shit up 100% on the fly, which was why it was so easy for me to forget about him 10 seconds later. But then you guys are like, is he okay? We don't want him to get roped up in the guards, or, you know, them thinking he had something to do with the prince being this way. That care, that acknowledgement of that NPC to me was like, wow, man, that seems like someone that would be a cool touchstone to come back to, you know?
And it was.
Yeah. And again, this foreshadowing.
Full circle.
Yeah. Of like, to me, this is an instance where like, the freaking universe, Asteria, led me to this, because knowing that you guys were going to have escaped a fight after getting your ass kicked, where could you go? Boy, it's too bad you don't know anyone who's a healer. Oh shit. Wait, you do, you know? So this was such a perfect marriage to reintroduce this character here.
Yeah.
And I was so excited to do it. And I wasn't sure if you guys would think it was being led by the nose too much, because it was 100% like you guys created this character essentially. So
yeah, it was really satisfying when like you took us to the apothecary, and I'm like, okay, so we have an apothecary screen. But then you pulled up a picture of Stavros and I was like, yeah, that played out perfectly. That was good. Yes, very satisfying. And now he is our best friend for life.
Yeah, like I'm totally
We're adopting him.
that meme. The wow.
Yeah.
Well, and that's so funny because by the same token, like I had that all prepped, I had it ready to go, and I was hoping you guys would dig it. And it didn't occur to me to prep him a mule. But I somehow feel like that paid off in dividends to have not done that by your guys' reaction to my idiotic face of a
we loved every time you had to be the mule. We're going to adopt the mule, so get ready to do that every single session.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes, I'll keep that in mind. I'll work on it in the mirror now. So. But so Stavros gets an earful of what's been going on here, which is unusual for a civilian to get that sort of insight. Also, as someone who runs an apothecary, it makes sense that healers are very closely tied to the deities here, right? Because healing comes from magic. This comes from the deities. So you guys are able to inquire upon him certain things about the deities, and the reveal that you guys learn that Hestia herself is the one who has kind of forsaken Arcadia, the master of both, or I shouldn't say master, but the ruler of both Xenia and fire, right? The home and hearth, right? Hospitality and the gift of the gods that is fire to the people, you know, the ability to create fire. And knowing that, okay, this is who Arcadia has pissed off. This is who we now have presumably pissed off if they don't think that we've been bamboozled, if they're not very specific on the hows and whys of why we ate people. We could really be in a bad way with Hestia. But the only person that's going to have more answers to it is the lady who used to be the Vestal for Hestia, who would ignite the ancient hearths, Madame Rava's grandma, and thus completing the circle of where you guys need to go.
Yeah.
Yay. So
Yay.
amazing cart ride back. I want to tell you guys just very briefly before we wrap things up, the inception here of the cart ride, because the cart ride was not part of the original script. That's why we don't have a mule, right? But you guys get there and you get to the apothecary, and I'm like, here is my nod to Nyx. This is what I need Nyx to do today. We've got the monster hunter, we've got the guy seeking vengeance, we've got the, religious person doing his prayers to bring down the thunderstrike, right? But we got to give Nyx, we got to give the rogue that rogue moment. So it's like, ooh, the apothecary is locked. Even though it would seem as though we established earlier that things in Arcadia would not be locked because Grandma's house wasn't locked. This was merely a ruse by King Lycaon and the captains, and an oversight that they just left the door open. But he wasn't going to come out of bed and break his disguise by answering the door. You had to walk in there. So the door theoretically had to be open. So when Renveri said, well, I guess they can't smelt metal, they probably don't have locks. And the guard was like, yeah, you don't need to lock doors here. Like, they're totally bullshitting, right? So I'm like, it's okay for the apothecary to be locked, thus giving Nyx the opportunity to break into the apothecary and use their rogue skills. But I cannot deny that Renveri just banging on the door and being like, fucking Stavos, it's us, get the fucking door. That shit would have worked, So I was like, oh, incredible. Shit. So I started concocting in my head as we're going through all of this backstory of Prince Menelaus and his arm being eaten and you guys dealing with that trauma. In the back of my head the whole time, I'm like, what can I give Nyx to do here? That'd be like a real moment for them to shine. So we're going through and we do hit on the part of the discussion where Bran, in a true moment again of just this giant heart this guy has, definitely doesn't see how bad it would turn out if he tells Canopsia, hey, I'll be a werewolf with you. Do you want me to go through it with you? Because I know that's going to be a rough thing to do. And then, that reaction from Menelaus, that reaction from Canopsia looking up at the moon, and you hear a voice in your head telling you to relax, to calm down, that everything's going to be fine and stop freaking the fuck out. There's a lot to unpack around here. And I know we don't have a lot of time, but if either of you want to comment on that, let's unpack it a little bit right here. So Bran, was this an oversight on Dusk's part that Dusk didn't see, oh shit, how bad it would be if Bran loses control as a werewolf? Or was this Bran not seeing how bad it would be?
I think it was absolutely one of those moments where it's just like, again, that moment of a character moment feeling right. Because
yes.
I even spoke about it in the moment being like, okay, this is crazy, but it feels right. Of Bran being like, do you want to do this alone?
Mm-hmm.
I also love the slow realization everyone had of oh, what the fuck?
Yes. Yeah, and the intensity at which Menelaus tells you, what the fuck are you thinking, dude? Had to be pretty jarring. He
really tells Bran to fuck off, and both I and Bran hella respect him for that. It's absolute. At first, it is the impulsive, this is someone I deeply care about. I don't want them doing this alone. A very human sentiment of camaraderie,
right?
As we discussed, after session,
mm-hmm.
And then afterwards, as I was thinking on it, and in the episode, I was very quiet around this part of just Brienne dealing with the shock of cannibalism, like, bleeding through me, per se, as well as, like, slowly coming to the cold realization of, like, why do I want that? Why did I say that? And just slowly realizing, oh, it's not just for camaraderie, it's also for power.
Right. Yes, that allure of like all these monsters and beasts always have an edge on me. What if I can get that edge? What if I can get a little bit better? You know, that there has to be a drop in that bucket in Bran's thinking that he may not even be aware of, you know, that he's somehow convinced himself, no, it's purely out of camaraderie rather than anything else. So yeah, that's a really nice touch to add in there. At which point
feels hella guilty after realizing.
Well, even Carl comes out to be like, dude, don't forget, like, if you really lost control, like this is what you're fighting hard against, dude, you know? So in essence, kind of being a little bit of a conscience there for you, but also like you have to think of Menelos's position, which I'm not sure anybody considered. Who the fuck was going to make you a werewolf? You know, were you asking him to do that? Not really, but did he feel like you were? Yes. Yeah. Would he do that? Fuck no. You know? So yeah, there was a lot there. And dude, honestly, I had never considered you saying that or pulling that out of your hat. So the minute you said it, like that was 100% gut reaction of me being in Menelos's shoes, you know, having not considered any of that beforehand, but rapidly realizing this is the way this character would react to it, you know, because this is a heavy thing that you're asking and a burden on him. And he does not like that. On the flip side of that, Canopsia already stuck in that point, kind of being a little bit hurt by that loss of connection between the moon and knowing that the moon is now a part of an affliction that you have, a curse bestowed upon you but by someone evil, but from the gods themselves who are you're supposed to be kind of divining. Like, how did that feel for you, Juno? And how did that feel for Canopsia? Where do you think they're going to go from here?
Juno, was devastated. In a good way. Like, I was devastated for him because I know of Canopsia's affinity for the moon and the stars. In the previous game, Canopsia was a worshipper of, you know, the goddess of night and guidance and, like, you know, traveling by the stars. And, you know, oftentimes he would seek, in this dream, he would seek comfort from the stars. And so even now, even though he has shed that dream and is behind him now, right, he still can't help but fall back into those patterns of trying to seek out, you know, what's familiar. Of course, like, you know, what's familiar to him and where he can go and what to look for. And the moon and stars are that. And then feeling this almost like animalistic urge, like starting to kind of like creep over him as he looks up towards the moon, and he's just like, oh, I can't look to you for help. I can't look to the thing that guides me.
Yeah.
And especially because Asteria, you know, if Asteria is the lady of the stars, and the lady night. Nyx is truly the mother of night, but for Canopsia, he isn't worshiping Nyx. It's Asteria.
Right.
And Asteria, despite not knowing her and not knowing her well, she has at least some faith in Canopsia, right? There's a reason why he has this cloak, right? There's a reason why he has it. There's a reason why it was given to him, right?
Right.
And he doesn't know if it was from Asteria herself or whoever, but he got it from somewhere. And he knows that this is like a mark. This is important. she is important. And she is Canopsia's only guide for finding out the truth of who he is, what he's done, who he was before. And he would look to that. He would look to her, and Canopsia doesn't remember what, if he had a family or anything. Nothing of that sort. He doesn't remember any of that.
Mm-hmm.
But Asteria, the stars, the night, that is comfort. That feels like home. And he just, I don't know. It's awful.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
awful to lose that. And it's awful to lose that anchor because he doesn't have it anymore. He can't use it because if he looks to it, it'll turn him into, an animal if he's not careful.
Right.
And it's heartbreaking, especially for him. And where to go with that? He doesn't know where to go. It's like Prince Menelaus, I believe, even said something like, you've already resigned to your fate for this curse. And he's just like, I don't feel like there's any other options.
Yeah.
And even Menelaus said, like, it'll take a couple, decades to master. And that was another punch in the gut.
Well, also,
what do you mean?
I'm sure hearing that, like, oh, in this universe, they don't have like cure curse, or remove curse. It's like, no, you got a curse that a deity bestowed upon people. Like, and I think Stavros even told you guys, like, another deity cannot remove, like Asteria can't just remove that curse. Like, it would have to be Hestia who removes it, So now it's a whole other thorn in your side of like, she's not even on your radar,
No. And again, feeling guilt and feeling lost because, again, here is this anchor, this thing he looks to, this thing he talks to. And, when he's in a time of need, or if he needs help, or if he, if he just needs someone to talk to, even if he doesn't get a response, it's just, just like maybe the comfort of knowing that something out there can hear him and cares, even a little. And it's nice to be cared about. It's so nice to be cared about. And now he can't look at it. A whole part of him, another part of him taken away.
Tainted now.
And it's awful.
Oh, man.
Awful. Truly awful. And I feel for Canopsia so deeply. Even now, I'm just like,
I know
Canopsia.
that's I think Dusk mentioned earlier, like, pain and passion should be like the subtitle to Pristine Dreams as a whole. But sometimes I wonder if it's like make Canopsia suffer should be like the
make Canopsia suffer. My favorite.
Sweet kick little puppy.
I know.
Yeah. And it's like I as a player always worry about making hold on. Are you crying at me? Okay, you're not crying at me yet. I always worry about making Kay too melodramatic, or I don't know. Like, I don't want. I worry about making him too pathetic. I don't know. I worry about, because it's like, I want these, I don't want Canopsia being sad to just be like, another thing. I want these things, because it's like, it truly is harrowing and scary to forget who you are and to forget what made you a real, tangible person, what made you you.
For sure.
And already having such little scraps of, and a lot of it is from this dream. Hold on. Gotta let my dog out. He already has these very little and very thin, like, scraps from a dream. And again, he doesn't even know if that was real.
Right. So you've got very thin connections as is.
And you don't even know if they're real, right? You don't even know if they're real. And so Canopsia holds on to the one thing that he feels was real. The stars. His love for the moon, his connection to the stars and feeling safe and knowing what, like, almost, you know, getting his footing back, knowing what to do if he just, you know, connect a couple constellations, you know? And now it's gone. And now he can't use it because of, in his own mind, he was too reckless and too brash.
Yeah.
And all he wanted to do, he just wanted to do his duty.
Yeah.
As a paladin, he just wanted to do his duty.
But
yeah,
you
it's
leaped
sad.
before you looked in that sense. Yeah. So,
yeah.
But the good thing is Canopsia's story is far from over. So he's got some ways to go and hopefully regaining some of what he has lost. But just to wrap things up for tonight on a little bit of a more jovial note, so we can leave our listeners out there with a chuckle as well. Getting back to Nyx, our fabulous mule, and me saying, hey, I really want the rogue to do some rogue shit. It was like, I thought up on the spot, hey, let's get you to be the person who drives the cart. You can use some stealth checks. You can use your kind of maneuverability to maneuver through the city. And, you know, I'd have you roll a number of handle animal checks, which I knew you'd be bad at probably, right? In conjunction with some stealth checks that I knew you'd be good at, to kind of say, like, this is you trying to navigate a creature in a way that was stealthy, you know, so you could add your stealth rolls to you avoiding attention no matter how weird the animal's being, but you'd still have this aspect of the animals being really weird. So, Nyx, how did you like that final segment towards the end there of driving the cart?
Oh, I enjoyed it. I think that Nyx was probably like, she did it out of like a sense of duty. I don't think that it suits her very well. And I don't think she particularly enjoyed like the game of stealth and animal handling herself. Like, it's so funny because I'm sure that a regular rogue, you know, would get a rush out of, you know, outsmarting, you know, an angry crowd or you know, how she maneuvered to get out of there safely and without much incident. But she was probably like, you know, honestly more bothered than anything. Just kind of like I remember this part, and it's a little fuzzy, but I remember that there was a part where like she could have chosen to stop, but instead she just fucking kept going.
Yes.
Like,
yeah. Some guards were trying to stop you, and you're like, I'm going to continue to keep going and run them over with cart.
And that was so fucking funny.
Yes. And again, it's one of those things where you don't know where it's going when you kind of just flavor up your world, you know? And I mentioned to you, I said, oh yeah, there's a guy on a horse over here. He's being detained by the guards. They're kind of talking to him. You could probably get by without too much detection. And then you're like, I'm going to ram the freaking blockade, and I'm just going to go right through these people and not care. And I'm like, they are totally going to come and attack you now. And Endo, in a brilliant stroke, was like, what spell did you use? Something like Mage Hand to slap the horse on the ass?
Yeah, I had Mage Hand. My Mage Hand, because I have telekinesis, is invisible and doesn't require somatic or verbal components. So, like, can just do an invisible hand and slap the ass of a horse and make a bigger problem. A problem that's bigger than us.
Yeah, now you've got this guy. They had actually just stopped trying to flee in the commotion you inadvertently caused. And they're like, oh, he must be a criminal.
Yeah. I was like, when you were describing the scene and everything, when you mentioned that there's already a guy stopped here and he was being a buster, your words, I was like, eyes emoji, like, okay. There's something here.
Oh no, it's super cool. Nice touch though to help get out of the situation. And Nyx, of course, just classic Nyx fashion, being like, I keep going. I run this guy over.
I love Nyx barreling through things, essentially.
When you don't control the mule and it almost runs over some pedestrians and they're just like, hey, what the hell are you doing? And they're running pissed off. You're just like, get out of the way, idiot. Like you just yell at them. Like you almost killed these people.
I'm walking here. Yeah.
Oh, I love it, man. It was too much fun. I see the chat down here between our players is also popping off with much love for Canopsia and the plight that they are dealing with. And I do want to say, as we wrap this up tonight, if you out there are listening along and you kind of feel these themes that Canopsia has going on, this connection and loss to other people and your own self identity, maybe being a problem in your memories, these are common things for a lot of people. And it's why I love exploring these themes, because it gives some catharsis to all of us to deal with those things. And we encourage you guys to listen along, contemplate those things, and reach out, comment to us if you're feeling that way, if you're feeling down, because you got some friends and players hanging out here that wish you guys the best the same way that we wish Canopsia the best. So I'm sure you've got some people in your life that you're probably not thinking about in the moment, but reach out to them, connect with your loved ones, and just like our party does, connect with those around you to really help fulfill you in ways that you otherwise sometimes can't be by yourself. So if you've got some love out there that you want to show for Canopsia, for Juno, for Dusk or Bran Ranveri, Nyx, Endo, or Cypher, make sure to throw it down in the comments below. We appreciate you guys so much. And we don't have to leave a comment. We're going to tell you we love you guys. So thank you for joining us here tonight on Tavern Talk. We hope you enjoyed both session 6 and tonight's Tavern Talk. You can find us, of course, anywhere where podcasts can be heard, and also right here at YouTube at D20 Dreamland on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. Dream on, dreamers. Say goodnight, everybody.
Dream on. Good night, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Good night.
I'm going to have nightmares tonight.
Well, that's a personal
Thank you for tuning in.
Yeah!
It's like, fuck you. That's
Fuck you. See you in hell.
There we go. See you in hell.